Hello, and today I will be teaching you a poem. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It's by Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou is a very famous poet. She is a Afro-American poet and a crusader for black rights. She has penned this poem based on the book which is part of her memoir or autobiography. Now, a simple background or a little background about her. She was born to her parents. Her father had left her and she wanted to educate herself. When she had gone to stay at New York, she was traumatized by a rape incident that took place on her. But she went above all this to make herself heard. She then learned to do things the way she wanted. She had also joined a class where she learned how to dance. Maya Angelou is one of the most famous of the poets that are in America. She died as recently as 2014. In this poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings stands for not only Maya Angelou but all the Africans who are living in America. The whole incident is a kind of a foreshadow, which is a figure of speech that has been used here. It gives us an image of what is yet to come. She uses lot of visual imagery, auditory imagery, and kinesthetic imagery. Visual imagery is in the examples are like free birds, orange. Auditory imageries are singing, thrill, trees, and kinesthetics are floating, leaping, flying, and singing. Let's start with the poem. First, I will read out the poem for you and then we will go line by line. A free bird sings on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. Now, let's get the poem first para analyzed. A free bird refers to any human being who is free, who is not chained by others. Remember, America has got a history of black being prosecuted by the whites, and the time that she wrote was the time which was known as the troubled times between the blacks and the white. It was the time when the black protested against the conditions that they were living in. A free bird refers to a free human being who can leap, which means jump, on the back of the wind. Back of the wind is a personification, jumping, moving around from one place to another. Remember again, in America in the 50s and 60s, blacks weren't allowed at certain places. They weren't allowed to use certain things and they were basically segregated, not only in the public transport but also in their workplace, in comparison to a free bird or to a white citizen. It can float downstream till the current ends. The free bird can float over here. Not only means literal float, it can go anywhere from one corner of the country to another corner of the country. It can dip its wings in the orange sun's rays. So while moving around, it can dip its wings up and down, and it can move from one place to another, and it dares to claim the sky, and it has got guts to say, this is mine, which was denied to the blacks. and dares to claim the sky is a hyperbole over here. The next para. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. So what does the bird which is tied up in a cage do? He is not allowed to do anything that a free bird does. The bird, he keeps stalking. Stalking over here is stalking his own footsteps. His narrow cage allows him the freedom of only walking from one corner to another corner, and thus he keeps on following his footsteps up and down, which is recorded in the word as stalking, and can seldom see through his bars of rage. He is not allowed to see the world because he is imprisoned in his own cage. He is not allowed to enjoy what is free because he is tied up in this cage. And because he is locked in this cage, there is anger in him, there is frustration in him. This anger and this frustration makes him blind with rage that he is not really able to see what is happening in front of him. His wings are clipped. His wings are clipped in the senses he is not allowed to fly at all, and his feet are all tied. While his feet are all tied, so he opens his mouth to sing. Because he is not able to fly and go out of the cage, because he is not able to walk out of the cage because the cage is locked, the only way he can sing out his frustrations, he can sing out his longings, he can sing out what he wants is through the song from that echoes from his throat loud and clear all over the earth. The third para. The cage bird sings with a fearful thrill. So what does the cage bird do? With lot of thrill, it sings aloud. The cage bird sings with fearful thrill of things unknown but longed for still. And this tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. So, analysis is the cage bird, it sings, no doubt. It is allowed to sing. It is allowed to voice its opinion. Okay? But with a fearful thrill. A fearful thrill because it does not know what might happen to him, because he is scared of the unknown future, because he feels if he pours out his anger, vent his frustrations, there might be something happening to him. So there is a fearful thrill of the future where he wants to go but he's scared and something is holding him back. Of the things unknown of your future, things that is he is not aware of, but he still longs for that. And his tune is heard. His tune refers to his song, refers to what exactly he wants, refers to his song on the distant hill. So his song reverberates all over the countryside, not only near but also far away. For the cage bird sings of freedom. So what does the cage bird do? It sings only of freedom. Freedom that has been given to the other bird, which can fly and dip its wings and color its wings near the sun and or near the river. The free bird thinks of another breeze. So what does the free bird do? It thinks of another breeze. A breeze which symbolizes freedom. It is an alliteration over here. Freedom of moving from one place to another. and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and also about the winds which sigh when it moves between the branches of the trees, which is of course over here the figure of speech uses onomatopoeia as well as personification. And the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn, which is an alliteration, and he names the sky his own. So over here in this hyperbole, the last sentence of the para, what does the poet say? The poet says that God has made creatures big and small. Everyone has got the freedom. The free bird which keeps thinking over the breeze and which keeps flying here and there. The breeze which has the right of movement to move between the branches of the tree. The lowly fat worm which keeps waiting for the dawn or bright dawn, which symbolizes hope and awakening so that it can continue the life. But what happens to the cage bird? The cage bird is denied all these things that is basically his, for he is born and he lives in this world like the rest of God's creatures on earth. The next para. But a cage bird stands on the grave of dreams, and his shadows shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. So in this para, the poet says the bird stands on the grave of his dreams. So once upon a time, the bird must have been free. It must have dreamt such a lot of things. But today, the bird is caged. Because the bird is caged, all the dreams that he had dreamt, not only for himself, but also for the world, are now in shambles, buried in the grave. The grave that symbolizes dead dreams that will never ever awaken. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. And what does the shadow of the bird say? The shadow of the bird shouts about this nightmare which is recurring, which has got no beginning, no ending. A nightmare where he is not able to fly around, where he is not able to move around like the rest of the creatures of God. It's a nightmare which has got no beginning, no ending, and nothing for him except for the dreams that are lying dead in the grave. His nightmare is a scream that needs to be heard in every corner of the earth. His wings are all clipped. Wings are clipped. He's not allowed to fly, and his feet are all tied. He's not allowed to move. So the only thing that he has got left is his voice, which he uses to sing aloud. The last part of the poem, or the last para, it is repetition of freedom. The cage bird sings with a fearful thrill. So what does the cage bird do? With a thrill it sings. Fearful, scared, doesn't know what might happen. Of the things unknown, of the things in the future which would be unknown. But it still longs for still. But it still longs. So there is no hope that he wants to give up. He does not want to give it up. He knows one day there will be freedom for all of them. And thus he sings loud so that his tune, his song of hope can be heard everywhere in all corners of the earth, whether it is on the distant hill or on the stream. The cage bird sings only of freedom, a freedom that he longs. So here Maya Angelou talks about freedom that has been denied to the black Afro-Americans all over the world, not only in America. She talks about the freedom and the persecution done on this particular race. So, today I have taught you all, or I have explained to you all the poem Why the Caged Bird Sings. I hope you liked it. Please like, share and subscribe for my video. Remember, you can always come back to me in case you have any doubts. Come back to me. My mail ID is nandita@educateaid.com. All the very best, children. Do well in life. God bless.